Hi guys, welcome to the BTM CLUB in Conversation series with music legends. And if you've been following the series, you know exactly what it's about. It's about all of those artists that have been the soundtracks to our lives through 70s, 80s, 90s. And today we have Mr. Paul Carter from Beatmasters. Hooray!
Hi, Barrie.
Welcome. How are you?
Thanks for having me.
My pleasure, my pleasure. I thought, I've got yet another star in my midst and I haven't, I'm not utilizing it. So come on, we have to do this. How have you been?
Good, yeah, good.
So you don't live in London, do you?
Hmm?
You don't live in London, do you?
I used to live in London, yeah.
Right.
I was 30 years in London, but I live in Brighton now.
Right, okay, by the sea, fresh air.
Fresh air by the sea, but I miss London, to be honest.
Yeah, you see, that's the thing. Because I was interviewing another artist and he said, where in London, in England are you? And I said, London, the only place to be. I know I will be strung up for saying that. But, you know, once you've had that taste of London, you know, even when your life quietens down and you move out,
you still miss it.
You're kind of going, okay, I can only twiddle my thumbs for so long.
Well, I don't twiddle my thumbs too much, but
you know,
yeah, I just like, when I go up to London, I just feel at home straight away, you know. So,
are you originally a London boy?
No, you could probably tell from my accent that I'm not originally from London.
Okay.
Most Londoners actually think I'm from Liverpool. Taxi drivers especially. But
so where are you
I'm
from?
actually from the Midlands, from Coventry. Yeah.
Okay. It's funny because as you speak more and more,
you can hear it.
More and more relaxed. Yeah, you can hear it. It's there. It's definitely there. Yeah. So when did you come to live in London?
Early 1980, about April 1980. I remember it very well.
Right.
Thinking like, the streets are going to be paved with gold.
Yeah, well, we all know that story, but we all know that story. Let's not go there.
It was almost true.
But so was it music that brought you to London because you were involved? No, it wasn't. Okay.
No, not at all. No, it was just living in a provincial town and just thinking if I stay here much longer, I'm going to get stuck here.
Yeah, I'll be working in the butchers or the bakers, and that's it.
Yeah, and also very little going on there, you know, and quiet but very run down at that time, you know. So it was kind of a dangerous sort of place to live as well, you know.
Yeah,
quite easy to get yourself into trouble at night there.
Right.
In fact, the Specials wrote a song about, if you remember the Specials, Ghost Town.
Of course.
Yeah, well, that was written about the city I'm from, you know, because they are from there. Yeah.
Okay.
So I saw the Specials come up through all the pubs and clubs in the town, you know, where you literally stood 3 feet away from them because you were in a tiny room in a pub. But apart from them, really, not a great deal had happened.
Right. So, no, I didn't know they were from there. Yes. So that's a nice bit of, what should we say, trivia, because you know the song, but you didn't know it was about a specific place. Well,
I dare say, you know, in the early 80s, the song was universal. I mean, I think that's why it was such a big hit, you know. But,
right. Yeah.
I think being from Coventry, it couldn't really be about anywhere else, because when you listen to the lyrics, you recognise what they're talking about. Used to be a boom town, you know. There's a line in it about it used to be a boom town, now it's a ghost town, or words to that effect. And that's true of Coventry, which was once a very upwardly mobile place, you know. A lot of factories, lots of people came from all over the world to work there. Yeah. And then it all just fell apart at the seams, you know.
So I guess there's a deeper meaning in the phrase "send them to Coventry."
You could at that time, definitely, yeah. But funnily enough, probably meant the same thing, really.
Exactly.
The worst possible place anyone could
put them over there, get them out of my sight. So okay, you came to London, and you say it wasn't music that brought you to London.
No. Although
you just wanted to do something different, be somewhere different with more potential and prospect.
I was massive on music, you know. I mean, you couldn't grow. I mean, the thing about country was quite multiracial, so you couldn't help. This was the one good thing about it, was that you couldn't help be exposed to so many different types of music.
Right.
Hence the specials, in a sense. So yeah, I mean, I spent every penny I had on music. So I came to London, but I didn't
join the club. Join the club.
Yeah, didn't we all, you know? And I came to London. I didn't have a job, but I got a job working at a theatre called Sadler's Wells Theatre, the dance theatre.
Of course, that's like church.
Is it?
Yeah, Sadler's Wells is like a place that you go to worship. Come on.
Well, it is an amazing place. I mean, there's no doubt about it. The stuff I got exposed to there was wow. You know, I'd never really seen anything like it. But and I got to do the lighting there eventually. I was there for quite a while, but I got ill in the early 80s while I was working there. The hours were incredibly long, you know, in theatre. It was a nightmare, you know. I mean, I wasn't even getting time to go home and listen to my music.
That you spent so much money on.
And in the end, I just had to get out of that, you know.
Right.
And then I had a friend who ran a music company, and he offered me a place working with him, you know. So, but that was not a music company making records and things. That actually made music for TV ads and stuff like that, you know, and film commercials and things.
Right.
But crucially, it had a recording studio on site, which is what took me where I went.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's like anything, isn't it? You are placed in a situation, and it's up to you whether you see it as an opportunity to do something.
I can't believe you've said that, because I was thinking about what I was going to say today, and I was down in the kitchen just not that long ago, like half an hour ago, and I thought, you know, a lot of people have said to me, God, you're lucky so-and-so, you know. And I say, you know what? Luck plays a part in life, but you've got to act on that luck, you know. Luck can present itself to you, and you can be afraid of it, or you can be not even realize it's there, you know. So
I mean, there's so many elements, because they say there's no such thing as luck. It's when preparation meets opportunity. That's what they say.
Luck is opportunity, really.
Yeah, you know, but it's also something comes to you, or you are placed in a situation, and it's whether you see it as an opportunity to try something and do it, or go, no, I'm scared, I'm not going to do it because it's unknown territory. And that's when it started to happen for you, because obviously then you were learning about the music industry.
Music, how to make music, how to operate the technology, you know, because one of the things about that point in music history is that all the new technology was taking over. It was all just coming out, you know, the sampling technology, the computers. And so it made people like me, who weren't terribly good musicians, in all honesty, you could make music suddenly when you perhaps couldn't have, you know, before.
Yeah. Well, that's the whole electronic era, isn't it? Because your genre is called hip house, right?
Well, you know what? We made a whole heap of records. You know, I mean, literally, I couldn't tell you how many records I've made. I mean, hundreds and hundreds. So what happened with us was, you know, we, like a lot of young people, young Londoners as we became, nightclubbing was the thing that we really loved doing. You know, me and my friends, our little outside of London posse. You tend to hook up with other people who've come in, you know, rather than people who've lived there all their lives. You know, you kind of like outsiders and you come in. But we were all club mad, you know. So you go to the clubs and you hear all this amazing music. And it was very exciting in London, you know. It was the WAG Club. You probably remember that yourself.
Well, another place that you go to worship.
Yeah,
definitely.
You know, the Beetroot, where else was there? Oh God,
Café de Paris.
Café de Paris. All of those clubs were all running at that time, and more were opening as well. And so you go out at night, just be hearing hip hop, electro, soul, you know, no house at that point. You know, just everything all coming, mostly American music.
And it was really quite interesting going out in those times, because there was quite a mix of everything. So you would hear some funk, you'd hear soul, you'd hear reggae, you'd hear good pop, you'd hear house. It was, well, it was slightly before the era of house, but you know, that amalgamation of everything is what made going out interesting.
Yes, and it was so, like, because I'd never been to anything like these clubs. They just didn't have them where I was from, you know. I mean, there was one club in Coventry that you could go to. It was a gay club. It was pretty much the only club you could go to and not get beaten up, you know. A lot of violence in that town. But so to come to London and find that all of this
and you know, as you say, that interesting mix of music brought an interesting mix of people. So you had, you know, the whole arts industry mixing with dancers, models, designers, artists, musicians, actors. It was just that whole world of interesting people coming together. So
it was like everything had been put in a blender and stuff was coming out.
And, you know, I can openly say that, you know, partying and going out changed for me kind of like mid-90s, when you realize that every club you went to, it was either this kind of music or that kind of music or this kind of it. So for me, it kind of killed it. It killed it.
Well, it did for me too, really.
Yeah.
For the same reason, because you see, there's only so much 130 BPM music I could take in one night, you know, beats per minute, that is.
Yeah.
To the listeners. If they probably already know what that is. But yeah, I mean, as you say, you could hear hip hop, electro, reggae, the whole works all in one night, you know, and it really worked. The right DJs could really make it work.
Exactly. You know, so tell me how the Beatmasters came about, because this is why we're here. Apart from the wonderful quiff that you still have, I'm going to have to put up a picture of me with my quiff, because I had that here.
Your quiff, Barrie.
Exactly. I mean, it was a monument.
Spectacular.
It was a monument. All right. But I see you still have yours. I'm not jealous. I'm not jealous, but I see you still have yours.
It's made a comeback over the last year or two, you know, because before that I had a whole variety of different haircuts actually, but I've somehow reverted back to it. But
style is style. It never goes anywhere. Style is style. It stays. It doesn't go anywhere. It just stays. You may well see me with a quiff the next time you see me.
I'd love to. I saw one of you on Facebook the other day where you've got like a great thing coming across here. Was it? Or somewhere? ID magazine, was it? Or the
that's right. Of which you have been in many times, as well as the Face. But we'll get to that. So yes, the Beatmasters. How did they come about?
Well, as I say, we were doing all this clubbing, you know, and around about 1985 it was, you know, we started hearing just a few little house records getting played out in clubs. You know, one I remember, it was a track called Time to Jack by a guy called Chip E from Chicago. It was the most simple, straightforward, hardly anything going on record, you know. But I heard it in a club and it was just incredible, not like anything, you know. And I sort of thought, wow, you know, this is amazing. Not only that, but it's so simple that I'm sure I could do. You know, I sort of always wanted somehow to be involved in music, but as a fan, you sort of think that's never going to happen. To me, you know, it's always going to be. I'm just going to be buying records for the rest of my life, and that'll be it. And I'll have to do
because you know you weren't a musician as such that was studying music.
I could play the trombone, Barrie.
Oh, right. Okay. Now it's coming out. Well, we never saw you with the trombone in the Beatmasters.
Not very well. Actually, there is a bit of trombone in several tracks we did, but I
don't just pull the rug from under my feet mid-interview or tell me about a bloody trombone.
Sorry. A little one-finger tinkle on the keyboards. But anyway, we went out, we carried on going out, and more and more house records were coming out. And one night, we'd been out really late, and it was almost light. And me and my friend Manda, who I worked with, we were in this facility of the studio. So we went in there and started playing about, with the gear. And, let's put a 4-to-the-floor bass drum, like that record we just heard earlier. Blah, blah, blah. Started mucking about and got something that sounded sort of like we thought it should sound, and that was it really, for a while. That was like 1986, sort of winter. So we were very early off the mark with that,
right,
as far as UK people went. But our didn't have any expectations of it. We just thought, well, maybe we could get this played in a club. Wouldn't it be great to hear your own record played in a club, alongside James Brown or something?
Indeed.
And
I think that's every music creator's dream, isn't it?
Yeah. So we made up some cassettes and sent them out. And in fact, we went to a few meetings with record companies, but they all turned it down, because they didn't get it, they just didn't know about it, so to them this was like, well, what is this? It's a bit like disco, but it's a bit like
not quite. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And their noses all sort of turned up, and so we were kind of almost giving up on it. And I thought, well, we'll just give it one more go. So we went to there was a reggae cutting plant in Dalston at the time. I can't remember what it was called, but it was run by a little old fella. He got his cutting lathe, and he normally cut reggae for London reggae acts, but we turned up there, and he just said okay, and he cut. I think we had 6 done. 6. It's all we could afford, 6 plates, like dub plates,
Yeah, but that's exactly what they were.
Yeah, they were, and they were just cut, and they weren't going to last long. Well, you've only got to play them half a dozen times, and that's it, really.
Yeah, because it was acetate.
It was acetate. Exactly.
Yeah.
So I had become acquainted with a few DJs over the months, not through my own efforts, because I was much too shy to walk up to DJs and say I'm not even from London. But I had a girlfriend at the time who was very sort of sociable, and she'd just go up and talk to anyone, and she got to know Tim Westwood, and so I gave Tim Westwood one of these plates. Oh crikey, I've left a crucial part of the story out.
And this is his story, and he's left it out. This is his story.
We had this track, right, and it hadn't got a title, and we were trying to sort of think about what kind of vocal we could put on it. We wanted to put a vocal on it, and Tim Westwood said, I know these girls, the Cookie Crew.
Yes, good friends.
Susan and
Debbie.
Yeah. And he said, I'll play it to them, see what they think. And they came down, I think they might have even come from school, I'm not sure.
Yeah, because they were young. They're younger than us.
Yeah, they were young.
They're younger than us, yeah.
I remember how young they were, because when I went out to buy some food at lunchtime, I said, do you want anything? And they said, can you get me as many sweets as you can for £1? They'll probably kill me for saying that. But anyway, they came in, and they said, well, okay, we've done some lyrics, and we got the mic set up in the same room as all the gear and the tape machine and everything. And they just did it. Rock the house, they called it. And it was like, wow, that'll do. yeah, that'll do very nicely, you know. And
yeah, because Susan is Susan Banfield, who is the sister of one of the guys in the Pasadenas.
yes, her brother later on came out with the Pasadenas with Right On. No, what was it called?
Yeah.
Right On, or something.
Yeah.
And a song about a train as well, or was that the same song? Can't remember. Anyway,
No, that was the second single.
Was that the second single? Right?
About the train, yeah.
Yeah. And so they came in and did it, and then went off. And I mean, we always sort of thought we'll have to get them back in at some point and do this properly, you know, and get a proper recording. But we never did, you know. So the vocal was just recorded on one mic in the same room as everyone. You can hear people coughing in the background.
Kind of like today, really. Dogs barking, people talking. Kind of like today, really.
Yeah, well, but the Cookie Crew were part of that sort of fledgling, very early UK rap thing. There was the She Rockers, Cookie Crew, the London Posse.
Lonely Love.
Record with the London
Posse, they all around the same time.
They all around the same time. A lot of them all came from Shepherd's Bush. You know,
that's
I don't know what it was about Shepherd's Bush. And so they put the vocal on, and then we sent it to Westwood. That's right. That's how it worked.
Right.
And he was a funny guy. I don't know if you know him or not, but you know, people always are a bit horrible about him. You know, because
we don't really talk about Tim Westwood.
No.
There's that controversial thing that's attached to his name that you just go, okay, move on.
But anyway, he said, I can't play this. It's too fast. You know, it's too, because it was meant to be a house record, not a hip hop record. But we just didn't know what else to do with it, you know, because we love rap, but we loved house. So we kind of accidentally invented this thing called hip house. Now, it was happening in America at the same time, but we didn't know that there were house artists in America, like a guy called Fast Eddie and Tyree Cooper, who were both from Chicago, and they were doing their own house rap records as well. But we weren't familiar with them at that time.
Because really and truly, it seems that it is written, the Beatmasters are accredited with inventing the genre to a degree.
Yes, it's true. And it was probably one of the first records, and also one of the earliest UK house records ever made as well. So, you know, we gave it to Westwood. Westwood said, I can't. He did play it one night at the Town and Country Club, and I can't remember. It might have been Run DMC. I'm not sure. It was something really big like that, you know. And he played it, and it didn't get much of a response from the rap crowd. And I was like in the corner going like,
exactly. Don't let them know it's anything to do with me.
But anyway, it did get passed around. These 6 acetates got passed around. You know, we gave them out to various people, and eventually there's a DJ called Mark Moore, who you probably heard of, who was the lead guy in S Express. Theme from S Express. And he took it to the same label that S Express was signed to, which was Rhythm King. This was 1987, so the year after we recorded it. And they put it out in 87. It sort of peaked. It actually did okay, you know.
It did very okay.
Well, no, at that point, it was more of a club record at that point, because the mixes were much rawer then. We hadn't really learned our trade very well. So the mixes were quite raw. And that got more play in the clubs, but it wasn't a hit. And then they said, well, we're going to re-release it next year. And they did. And we were still doing our day jobs at this point, you know. And they phoned up and they said, have you listened to the chart show this week? Well, I said, no. You know, I genuinely thought it would. What's the point of bringing it out again? That's what I was thinking. You know?
Right.
And they said, oh, it's come in at number 30 in the chart. It's selling incredibly well up north. I sort of thought, up north. And Yeah, and then it went to number 5 eventually, you know, and I found myself sort of with the telephone ringing, you know, the newspapers, and it was utterly the most weird thing when you sort of start out making a record that really you just be glad to hear it in a club in the early evening, you know what I mean? Before it gets really good.
Before it gets really busy and the DJ's serious now. Yeah.
Well, you know, like all the real proper records get played, as you think, when you've made something and you're not really sure what it is you're trying to achieve, you know. And we found ourselves sort of like in the middle of all this, you know, and the Cookie Crew immediately went, "Oh no, we're hip hop, we're not house."
But you appeared on Top of the Pops with that single, didn't you?
Well, we would have done, but they wouldn't come on with us. So, that was a bit awkward, actually. But because you know what it's like when you're a kid, you know, you if you're into a particular type of music, you're really like dedicated to that thing. And I think they were just totally into hip hop. And suddenly there was something that they didn't recognize.
Plunged into an arena that was unfamiliar.
Was not their thing.
Yeah. And obviously, as you say, their age being taken into consideration, they probably didn't know how to handle it.
They didn't respond very graciously that way, you know. And they had a manager who I think was advising them poorly. But anyway, the story
until they then saw how well it was doing.
Well, the thing about the Cookie Crew is, of course, as off the back of that record, they got a record deal of their own. London Records, to make rap hip hop records.
Right.
So from that point of view, for them, it was an incredible opportunity. Apart from me as well, you know. Yeah. It was an incredible opportunity. So we really broke the Cookie Crew to a mainstream audience.
So when did P.P. Arnold come into play?
Oh man, what can you say about her? You know,
I mean, because for people that don't know, P.P. Arnold is the first cut is the deepest.
Yeah,
right. That's the legendary song by her.
I can't remember she had another big song as well around about.
Yeah, but everybody would know the first cut is the deepest.
But first cut is the deepest. Yeah. Well, P.P. Arnold, you know, it was the same sort of thing. We were working on another track. Actually, this was our third single. We had another single out before the P.P. Arnold one with MC Merlin. Do you know him?
Yeah,
He Who's in the House? It was called.
Yeah,
and that again got to number 8. You know, we couldn't stop it at this point. We'd become part of a sort of
roller coaster.
A roller coaster, and there was a real appetite for it. You know, house was taking off. And people wanted not just
the real Chicago house was the thing. You know, Marshall Jefferson and 10 City and Kim Mazel.
Well, I met Marshall Jefferson once. The only time I ever met him, and I just couldn't think of anything to say. I felt like yeah. But I read a really interesting story about him. Actually, was that he, prior to doing house, was into rock music.
Yeah, well. Look at the interview. He is one of the In Conversation series. Yeah.
So that was interesting.
He told his story for this very same series In Conversation. So
right. He said he couldn't dance. You know, he said I couldn't dance, and my friends were all into rock music.
It's wonderful to hear how he started. It is a wonderful story to hear how Marshall Jefferson started and how he became known as the godfather of house. Oh. So check it out.
So many of those guys from Chicago.
Yeah,
you know, they're just gods, really, as far as people like me are concerned. You know, even at my age, you know, I'm still completely in awe of those people.
Yeah.
So we did Who's in the House, which was another hip house record. You know,
because I remember seeing you on Top of the Pops playing the keyboards.
Yeah,
in your trainers and your quits.
Yeah. Oh dear. I think I had high tops. I think
the high tops.
Adidas high tops then.
What
was I going to say? Yeah, so we'd had that record. That was done incredibly well, and that was much more successful in the clubs as well. because it had an American style rap on it as well. So there was a lot more space in the vocal for the beats to come through. Whereas with Rock House, the Cookie Crew were quite
yeah.
So with Merlin,
well, I can see the discs in the background. What are they all for?
Oh yeah, he says casually.
Yeah, I know. The discs, guys. Can you check out the discs there?
Yeah, there's a lot of those. They go all the way down the stairs.
But, we're at the top of the stairs. Okay.
So this is the top of the stairs where I'm sitting. I mean, I'm not sitting. I'm actually in the living room, but this is where I do interviews. But the discs are always very impressive to see. They're always it just proves you are who you say you are.
Yeah, exactly. Make sure you sit in front of the disc so people cannot dispute it.
So we'd had a hit Who's in the House, which had a great video which referenced, I've forgotten to mention pirate radio, of course, how important, even over and above the clubs for me, pirate radio was the big thing when I first came to London, because I didn't know the clubs. You know, I didn't know where they were or what they were. You put on, like, there were so many of them, you know, London Weekend Radio, Solar Radio, Kiss, JFM, Jazz Funk Music, run by Gordon Mack.
Yeah.
So I'd listened to all this stuff. You know, they mention clubs and they'd sort of write it down, you know, because no internet or anything.
Listen, that was in the days of having your cassette ready in your ghetto blaster.
Yeah.
Play and record, pause. Play and record, pause.
Well, I had a cassette in the whole time with listening to those.
That's it. Yeah. And you didn't have any, what's the thing called, Shazam?
Nothing like that.
Nothing like that.
And if they didn't back announce the track, that was it. You still would.
You had to make sure you were back next week to listen, because they might play it again. You know, who knows?
Especially listening to someone like Norman Jay, you know, who's playing Rare Groove and what have you, you know, and you think he plays the Voices of East Harlem or something. You think, what was that? You know?
Never heard this before. Come on. Give us the name.
It'd be another 6 months before you found out what the record was, you know.
Or could even get it.
So I've kind of gone off at a tangent here, but for me anyway, pirate radio was just the number one influence, really. And then the clubs came once I started finding out where they were. And there was also a very interesting sort of schism between the types of clubs. You know, there was the sort of more clubs in places like Peckham, you know, Lacy Ladies or
well, Lacy Ladies was right out East London, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, they're all over. You know, but Kisses, you know, there was Kisses. In
my God.
And these are places that Norman, Gordon Mack and all that lot used to play.
Absolutely,
you know? So there was this, and then there was the West End clubs, you know, and eventually the two came together. You know, the DJs that were playing in these separate clubs eventually all ended up playing in the same clubs because the scene all merged into one to an extent. So anyway, PP Arnold. Yes. We had Merlin, Who's in the House, great record. Merlin was fantastic, lovely guy. I was always disappointed that his career didn't do better. Right. But he's still about, you know. So there's talk of the Beatmasters doing some sort of one of these 80s festivals, you know. I might have to try and find out where Merlin lives. But I know he's around. But so yeah, PP Arnold, that was another record where we sort of decided to go a little bit more disco.
Yeah.
And because house by then, you know, people were looking at disco again, and because house was disco's revenge anyway.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
Against that movement in a horrible, homophobic, racist thing that happened in America where they burned all the disco records, you know.
Oh, yeah. There was this. But, you know, everything that is the basis of even house music now is disco.
It's still disco.
It's
Yeah.
still disco. And if you were, as they say, there the first time around and know the music and can hear it, you can hear this is disco with a heavier beat.
Well, if you were really a disco expert, you could listen to even to those early groundbreaking Chicago records, and you could see where they'd nicked the bass line.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Let No Man Put Us Under by First Choice.
Yeah.
You know, the bass line of that was used on Jack Your Body. You know, the Steve Silk-Hurley record that was very big in the charts. You know, that dum 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 dum.
Yeah.
That was Let No Man Put Us Under.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. So we've done this kind of disco back and forth. We've got all these live strings on it and all sorts, you know. And it was also the acid house thing had taken off, so it got kind of like acid house elements in it too. But again, we didn't have a vocalist, you know, and. Pat Arnold was PP Arnold, who had been one of the Ikettes, the original Ikette, Ike and Tina Turner's Ikettes. And you can see her on YouTube doing her stuff. Wow, you know, friend of Mick Jagger when she came over here, friends with Jimi Hendrix. You know, I mean,
she's the real deal.
She's the real deal.
She's the real deal.
We wanted a soulful vocal. My God, you know, she got it in bucket loads. You know? She just got to open her mouth, you know. And it was just a privilege to work.
I can see you're feeling that moment. You're feeling that moment right now.
There was lots of different things. The first one was, again, a bit of a Marshall Jefferson moment of just her coming into the room and kind of... You know, but she's so down to earth, you know.
Oh, she's lovely.
Really down to earth. And she just came in, you know, and we wrote the words in the recording session. You know, we didn't have any words when she first arrived, and we just sort of wrote them. They're not very deep, you know, they're just about getting up and dancing, basically.
Well, basically in keeping with what it was. You know, it wasn't about a political message necessarily. It wasn't What's Going On by Marvin Gaye, or, you know, it was in keeping with what it was and when it was and what was going on at the time.
If only it was what's going on. But and she came in and did that, and it was very exciting working with her, you know, and she was such a character anyway, you know. I mean, it was more fun talking to her, really. Yeah. Because she was not sort of slow in coming forward. She wasn't one of these people who would say to you, "Oh, I don't want to talk about the past," or something like that. If you said to her, "What was Jimi Hendrix like?" she'd tell you. Yeah. You know, and it was really...
Like, forget the recording. Can we just hang out and chat?
Yeah, well, there was mountains of that. You know, I mean, she was almost there when my daughter was born. You know, she came to the hospital literally moments afterwards. You know, so it's a pity she actually missed the event. But you know, I've got some fabulous photos of her holding my baby. You know, yeah, that was wonderful. You know, Burn It Up. It was, you know, the
So how many singles did the Beatmasters have? Because then Betty Boo comes in, she becomes involved.
Well, Betty Boo, again, you know, another member of the London rap scene.
Right.
She was in the She Rockers.
Right, yeah.
Who did a lot of, was it the She Rocker? Yeah, the She Rockers.
She Rocker, yeah.
Who I'd seen previously at all sorts of places. I think I'd seen them in the Fridge in Brixton and all kinds of places. I'd seen the She Rockers. And we, again, what was it? Oh, yeah, that's right. We'd written a track which sampled a Martha and the Vandellas record, which was I Can't Dance to That Music You're Playing. I think it was Martha and the Vandellas, or a Motown record.
Right.
And we didn't actually... sample the record, except when we were writing the rest of the tune, but we actually replayed everything. And your friend and mine, and sadly departed Claudia Fontaine, sang the I Can't Dance lyric, which left a hole for Betty Boo. And she came along. She was already signed to the same label as us by then, but she hadn't made any records.
Okay.
So they said, look, we've got Betty Boo. She's brilliant. You know, why don't you give her a try? And she came down again. I think she was 19 or something, you know. And she just nailed it, you know. I mean, I thought, oh, would it be great to work with Roxanne Shante or someone? And she, at that point, she was almost that good. You know, she had that real nasal aggression that Roxanne Shante had in her vocals. And it was just great, you know. And again, you know, went straight into the top 10, you know.
Because I can remember seeing Betty Boo, that's right, and she is all over that stage with the mic rapping, and you, as I said, standing up at the back with the keyboards. I remember it vividly, exactly, going, when is this going to be over? How much longer is this track?
Please take the camera out of my face. Singing over there. I mean, we were so reluctant, you know.
But you can't be in that industry and be reluctant to appear and do what you do.
Well, we like the background stuff. You know, we like being in the studio. You know, our performance space was the studio, and suddenly we found ourselves like thrust into the spotlight. You know,
absolutely. Makeup, wardrobe, lighting, sort yourself out.
Photographers and people going, no, you can't wear that. It's like, oh, you know, it's like, what do you want me to wear then? You know,
because you weren't the stylist.
Stylists.
You needed a stylist to help you stay in with what was going on at the time.
I'd never heard of a stylist, frankly. Suddenly,
such a sweet Coventry boy, isn't he?
I know. You know, somebody turns up with 4 bin bags full of clothes.
Try this on. And you're thinking, this looks ridiculous. It looks fine. It looks great because it's about the look. It's not about how you feel, you know. It's about...
and people sort of discussing you as if you're not there. You know, so the stylist and the photographer talk. What do you think? I don't like that hood on it. You know, you're still sort of saying
don't open your mouth because your opinion is irrelevant. Okay, it's irrelevant.
So this was a very sort of unusual thing for all 3 of us. You know, there were 3 of us at that point before one of us left due to musical differences.
Right, because we're going to move to this.
Yeah. So we had off that album, I think we had 5 singles.
Right.
And 4 of them were massive hits, and one of them was a complete and utter
because you were when we were chatting before, you were saying that, you know, you had these singles from the album. 4 of them were hugely successful.
Yeah.
And something about the formula changing on single number 5.
Well, do you know, we, as I said to you, first of all, we didn't really intend to be in pop business. You know, I mean, the music we liked was really.
To be honest with you, Paul, as you speak to me now, you still look shocked about being in the pop business in the 80s. It's like you still haven't come to terms with it.
The more I think about it, the more I haven't come to terms with it.
You're still talking about it as if you're shocked.
Yeah, it's true. We were. Well, I was very shocked, but. So it had its nice elements, getting into clubs for nothing and the VIP area all of a sudden. That was all very welcome. But
absolutely.
The TV appearances and the various other things, that was all a bit, oh, God, I could tell you some stories.
We'll have to do that off camera.
we'll have to do a whole series on me at this rate. So, we had a record. And we had recorded it as a house record. And one of us, who will remain nameless, but it wasn't me, came in with an electro remix of it. Now, electro had only been 7 years ago.
Right.
You know what I mean? When you're going to revive a musical style, it's best to let time pass, you know. So as far as I was concerned, much as I loved electro, you know, the Joes and Crew and all those sort of people, an electro mix of that track was a disaster. You know, and unfortunately, the record company got quite excited by it. I don't know why, because we had fabulous sort of turntable orchestra remix. Remember them, Hippie Torales?
Yeah.
There was a fabulous. We had all sorts of wonderful mix, Latin house mix. You know, much more, if you like, commercial. You know, easier on the ears.
Yeah.
But this thing was it was not welcome. And I remember doing the photo sessions for it and the video, and thinking, this is not going to work. You know, this people will not want this record. It's miserable. And again, the backing track made Claudia again on lead vocals this time,
right?
Singing
the late great
Claudia Fontaine. So, you know, singing her heart out, you know, just a performance, really, you know, to die for. We worked with her quite a lot. I never found that we had to do anything twice with her. You know, the only time we had to do anything twice was if she was doing background vocals to herself.
Yeah.
The rest of the time it was just bang it out. You know, once she'd learned the tune and everything, you know, so easy to work with. And,
consummate professional, you call that?
Yeah, consummate. Well, of course, she'd worked with everybody by then and continued to do so up until only a few years ago. But, yeah, so we brought this record out and it was a bit miserable sounding. You know, it wasn't in the other versions, but it was in this one. And they went with it. They spent a fortune on it was called Warm Love. And they spent a fortune promoting it with like little pop-out CD cases. It was released on Valentine's Day, 1990, I think. Well, I can't quite remember, 89 or 90, Valentine's Day. And the whole idea, they had all these things, the record stores to hang from the ceiling, great big hearts, red hearts with Warm Love in pink, you know. And you would have thought, well, this is going to do really well. But I think people just, you know, people don't like it when you give them something that's completely different.
No, people don't like it when you give them something they don't like.
Yeah, well, there's that as well. But, you know, there's definitely an element of not, you know, if you change.
It's funny because as you're explaining it about that single, Warm Love, your whole body language changed. I mean, you'd be able to basically see it. You were talking about it and you were doing this, literally crouching down as if.
I just, you know, I felt bad for myself. I felt bad for the other Beatmaster. I felt angry at the Beatmaster that's done it. And I felt bad for Claudia too, you know, who had so much respect and had made such a wonderful job of Hey DJ, the Betty Boo record, you know, singing the chorus.
Yeah.
Which had, you know, just done blindingly well. So, yeah, it was you know, we lost a fortune, you know, to be absolutely honest with us. It swallowed up all the royalties because, you know, one record has to pay for the previous record. Do you know what I mean? It bounces down each record. So if
it goes on.
If one loses, then it sucks out all the money out. You know?
Yeah.
All this promotion had cost a packet and an expensive video, and it just really went to number 51. You know. Which for some people, if you've never had a record out before, that would be quite respectable.
Yeah, but for you guys with your track record of starting at number 30 and then being at number 6 and number 8 and whatever, it's a considerable difference.
It was a considerable difference, yeah. It was a bit of an eye-opener, you know, and we got very poor very quickly again.
Yeah.
And, but we didn't stop, you know, we didn't go back to the day job. Like a lot of people would have, you know, they've done their album, they've had a little row of singles. I'm going back to packing meat at Sainsbury's or something.
Yeah.
We didn't do that. You know, we said, right, we've got to stick this out. We've got to take this. We've still got this opportunity, and we were given the opportunity to make a second album. You know,
right?
And that was a difficult album.
Okay.
It really was. You know, it was a difficult album. But again,
the musical differences between you started.
I think music was changing, and as Magpies, which we were, you know, we liked everything. There wasn't really any music around at that time that I didn't like in terms of underground music. You know, I mean, everything we did was influenced by underground music, except it was always a hit, despite our best intentions at one point of wanting to be underground. We didn't seem to be able to do that. You know, we really wanted to be underground, but we just couldn't do it. But so yeah, we brought out this second album. There's a bit of soul to soul influence in there. There's a bit of Talking Loud influence, you know, jazz. It's quite a lot of jazz influence. So we had a rapper from America come over called Precious, who made a couple of really great singles, American singles, you know. And she came over and rapped on a song called "Ain't Just Jazz," which was, and the sort of reply line to that was, "It ain't just jazz, it's attitude." And she did a really sort of conscious lyric, actually, you know. I mean, really conscious, very focused on women's rights and social issues. You know, she somehow managed to cram it all in, you know. Okay. It was a really good vocal. We had some really nice jazz piano chords in it, and there was that. And then we had Claudia singing a song called Deeper Into Harmony, which was lovely, sort of very slow, Barrie White beat, you know, that Barrie White loop that everybody used. Sort of, so that was nice, and lots of other stuff. Even some of our reggae influences came in on that one, you know. And then we got into trouble with Josh Shaka. It was all right, a quick phone call, you know. If you don't give me some of the publishing, you're a dead man. it really wasn't like that. But
no, he's not that person. He's not that person.
He's not. No, obviously. No. I mean, I've been, again, you know, I haven't even talked about the reggae influence, because that's all over both of our albums as well. So a real mix-up.
Well, I know that you are a music man, because I remember a couple of times you like tuned into the show, the BTM CLUB radio show on the beat. And you're like, oh my God, tune after tune, and you're naming the tune. So I know you're a music man.
Yeah. I mean,
I know you're a music man.
It's everything to me, you know, it really is. You know, so,
as you can see in the background, the discs, you know, it's everything. So what was the demise of Beatmaster?
Pardon?
What was the demise of Beatmaster?
Well, there was a demise after that second album. Which didn't sell. I think it was still silver, I think, you know, but it just didn't have the hits on it. You know, I think we went really serious, deep, you know, and changed the whole lyrical style and the subject matter and everything, you know. We introduced jazz and Roy Ayers samples. You know, do you know that song "We Live in Brooklyn" by Roy Ayers?
Yeah, of course.
You know, there's a sort of what do you call it? It's not a xylophone. What's that instrument? Vibraphone. There's a sort of vibraphone riff in that, which we used from "We Live in Brooklyn" for a rap song. And I think the ideas were perhaps too difficult for our audience. You know,
I was going to say, because you know, you realize that you're starting to introduce something that's musically a lot more sophisticated.
It was. And it was
because once you're talking about bringing in all of this jazz and Roy Ayers and you know, you're going to another musical level of sophistication rather than just you know what I mean. It's a different thing. So to that audience, it probably wasn't palatable.
Yeah, it was a lot less palatable, I think, to a lot of people. And then there was those people in the underground who associated us with pop. So they didn't really take a lot of
they're going, what is this?
Well, I don't think they probably bothered to listen to it because of our reputation for making pop music. So it kind of, I'm still proud of that record, you know, don't get me wrong, you know. I mean, I still think it's got some really exceptional tracks on it, actually. We had another one that was a Nigerian poet called Brother Nihi. He was sort of a bit of a face in the early 90s, but I don't know I have no idea what ever happened to him. But he came in and read a poem over one of our tracks, and wow, that was good.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you started making it a lot more, as I say, reusing the word again, sophisticated.
Yeah.
Way more sophisticated.
So that was the demise of the Beatmasters as a band, basically.
Yeah.
We stopped making our own records and just concentrated on making records for other people. We never went away. You know, we had another 20 years making records for and with other people.
Other artists. Because you always hear that, you know, when you're a musician or an artist, you know, you're not necessarily always in the public's eye in the way the public expect it. No. And they think you've disappeared and are not doing anything. But you then find out that, you know, you're writing for other people, you've got publishing for this and that and the other. So you're still very much active in the industry, but we
never stopped. In fact, we worked after the sort of demise of making our own records. I don't think we ever worked harder than we have done after that, you know, because first of all, we made some records with a group called The Shaman, who weren't really on our horizon at all. They were sort of like an indie group,
right?
That wanted to make house records.
You know? Even as you're talking about it, you're going.
Well, by the time we'd finished, it wasn't too bad. You know, we created 5 top 10 records for them, including one very infamous #1. You know. Ebenezer.
Well, that in itself, 5 top 10 records. To get into the top 10 is accolade in itself.
Well, especially then. You know,
and to have 5 in the top 10 and one a #1, that's quite an achievement.
And that was at #1 for over a month. You know, it was right at the height of the, you know, ecstasy thing, you know, in that rave era. There were rave records, you know, and again, very unexpectedly for us, and I think them, we had all these mega hits, you know.
Yeah.
So that was incredible. And then the phone never stopped ringing after that, you know. It's just, you left the league off the hook, you know.
Just so that you can get on with the work
it was
you've been asked to do. So give us now the info up to date, because there's been a little inkling and a snipping that the Beatmasters are creating something else currently.
Well, we have. It's actually me and 2 new Beatmasters, actually.
Right. Okay.
It's a bit like I went to see the Fatback Band last year, and
no original members probably.
Oh, well, only one of them.
Yeah. I mean,
and he was having to sit on a stool. You know, he couldn't.
We won't go there. But you know, it's
so it's a bit like that. You know, I'm the bloke on the stool, and the other two are youngsters. And we've made a new record again. You know, a record that we just made for fun in the summer, beginning of the summer, and sent a few copies out. You know, the amount of interest has been unbelievable. You know, so I'm not exactly sure when it's coming out. I mean.
And what's the single called?
It's called The Good Old Days.
Good Old Days,
and
it
is literally a song about back then. You know,
right.
Only there's no lyrics. It's an instrumental. Well, there are some lyrics. There are some vocal lyrics, but they're not. It's not sung.
Right.
And it just goes. Everybody's talking about the good old days. That is the only lyric there is, and. It comes and goes throughout the track, you know. It's just a sort of little look back at that time, for which I think there's a fair bit of nostalgia actually at the moment.
Yeah.
From young kids who weren't there.
Yeah.
So anyway, we've signed it to a record label called Happy Recordings, and it's coming out either early next year or possibly in 2 weeks' time. I'm still waiting.
Is it? But it's the unpredictability that's exciting, right? It could be 2 weeks' time or next year.
Well, I'm not expecting a major hit, you know. I mean, it's highly unlikely to even be a hit, but it might make a little bit of a ripple in clubland, you know.
Well, listen, it's you dipping your toes in the water after 30 years.
Well, I was last in the studio having any success in 2004.
Right.
So it's been a while.
Yeah.
And we did 3 tracks on the Girls Aloud album, that first album of theirs.
Right,
But,
okay.
That was really the last thing I did that was sold in any quantities, you know. We also worked with Aswad a lot.
Okay.
Which we made. You remember Aswad had a little run of hits in the mid 90s.
Yeah.
Shine like a star.
Yeah.
That was us. So I mean, us and them.
Yeah. Well, obviously, yeah.
And that again was another dream come true. You know, that was another sort of I can't believe I'm working.
Yeah, you know, and this is why I like to speak to you guys to hear the stories, and I always put this into my interviews because I think it's inspirational to hear the stories, how it's happened, how it's come together, how you put it together. And it kind of humanizes you guys as well. You're not this Afama that's afar, that, you know.
Especially not us.
It's good to talk to you guys and hear the story. So you're not sure as to the release of this track, whether 2 weeks' time or next year?
Yes, that's the awkward part about it, because I wish I could give you the date. It was scheduled for December the 4th, and it still may be.
Right.
But, you know, it's an independent little label, you know, and things seem to work slightly differently with independent labels.
Yeah, but you know what? I think it's not only the independent labels, it's like the music industry has changed considerably over the years. It doesn't function the way it did in the 1990s or the 90s.
Do you know what? I don't know how it functions. I really do not understand how it functions.
We commend your honesty, Paul. We commend your honesty.
Well, do you know what? I mean, it's so complex. There's so many platforms. There's so many streams of potential income, but it's so little, you know. I mean, you're talking about people selling millions of records and earning hundreds of pounds, you know.
Yeah, that's what has been said, you know, and a lot of artists have realized this, so now they do everything through their website, so that whatever's sold goes directly to them. Yeah, because you hear these horror stories of the streaming thing, and you go, what do you mean there are millions of streams, but they've only made, it doesn't even make sense.
2.4 million YouTube views, and your check's £36.97.
Yeah, you know, and sixpence. Don't forget the sixpence.
I mean, it's really hard now, you know, I think for any young artist. I mean, at least when we were first setting out, there was opportunity, you know, and there was, I mean, okay, we were in there early. You know, if you can get into a scene early enough, obviously that's going to be helpful. And I'm not sure there'll ever be a music revolution like that again, you know. Nowadays, there's just, I think somebody told me the other day that there is something like worldwide, so you multiply this by the year, 17,000 releases a day, you know, on digital platforms. Yeah. I mean, just do the maths on that, you know. I can't.
17,000 a day. It's incomprehensible.
I mean, that's what you're up against, you know.
Yeah.
And of course, a lot of them are in the same possible genre that you're working in, you know. 7,000 rap records, you know, whatever it is that your thing is, you know, and you're up against all these other people. I mean, we were privileged to work in a time when it wasn't like that. You know?
It wasn't like that, exactly. And at the time, you thought you were under pressure then. Yes. You know what I mean? At the time, you thought you were under pressure with the 4 other people that were releasing on the same day as you.
That's right. I mean, I used to think, you know, because I don't know if we're running out of time or what, but I used to buy a lot of records at Black Market. Of course, who didn't? That was life itself. Or Bluebird or any of those record label. Dub Vendor, I used to get my reggae records in there. But it takes a little like, oh, we've got 14 releases this week. You think, oh, 14 other records to compete with, you know. And it was, you just realise now how ridiculous that was.
Yes,
you know?
Absolutely.
14 house records, you know.
Well, you know what? It has been great to see you and talk to you, because we've only met once, and it's funny. The one time that we did meet,
Chinese restaurant.
That's right, Chinese restaurant. And we're looking at each other going, you look familiar. You look familiar. Yeah.
You look familiar all the time. You're one of these people that looks like you know them. I don't know why that. Some people have that
and, we realized, well, yes, our paths were crossing.
Would have crossed. And some of those photo sessions that I've seen you put up online.
Yeah, our paths were crossing.
I could have been in the room next door having
Not could have been. You were most definitely. If you were at Café de Paris, if you were at Embassy, if you were at Mud Club, if you were at the WAG, Maximus, we were in the same room, just in different.
It's amazing, isn't it? It is amazing that. And then, you never actually officially met. You were just stood behind each other or something.
But yes, it's great to talk to you, and we wish you all the best with the single. And what's it called? Barrie? Deep Love.
It's the new single.
Yeah.
Is The Good Old Days.
The Good Old Days, that's it.
With days spelt with a Z.
Okay. You got it, guys. The Good Old Days. New single coming out either in 2 weeks' time or next year.
I know, isn't that dreadful? Not being able to tell you the answer to that.
Barrie, and it's under the traditional name of the Beatmasters, so it'll be easy to find.
Yeah,
Paul, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure.
It's been a real pleasure.
Reminiscing, going down memory lane.
Yeah.
And as I say, we wish you all the very best with the new single.
Thank you, and all the best to you as well.
You take care.
Cheers.